Hi, I'm Ted Ramey. I am the radio play-by-play voice for the San Jose Earthquakes. We're getting ready for Retro Night, and sitting directly next to me is my father, Hal Ramey. I'll let you give an introduction of why we got you here today.
Well, I guess I'm retro. Yeah, I saw the Earthquakes' first game back in 1974. Actually, became part of the broadcast team in '76, and I stayed until we moved to Oregon in '84. So I had quite a run, and then when the Clash came up again in '96, I was back. So long history with this team, and it's fun to reflect on.
And you passed on the illness to me.
Yeah. As you said, I guess at the start of the season, someone observed Crazy George is banging the drum. There's her Ramey in the radio booth, so nothing's changed.
So tell me about Spartan Stadium back in the day when the San Jose Earthquakes were one of the top drawers in NASL soccer.
It was really an event. It's hard to paint a real picture back in the old NASL days. I mean, they had the colored penalty box. I think it was black, and then the 35-yard line and all. It was a bit of a different game than we see today, but it was a happening place.
In terms of the stadium atmosphere, we see it today at Avaya with Crazy George. Obviously, Crazy George was still doing his thing, and it's, you've known him for, forever, as you like to say. How, you see him out here doing it today. How much different was it back then?
Not much. I mean, George is George. The loud, raspy voice. People love him. I mean, I come here before games now, and fathers and I guess even grandfathers and their grandkids are posing for pictures with him. He seems as popular as ever to me, but he was just legendary. And at the time, George was just huge. He used to work with the Miami Dolphins and the BC Lions, I think the Kansas City Chiefs. He was everywhere, professional cheerleader, and the Earthquakes were, and the A's, and the Quakes were just very lucky to have him. And he was making as much of a ruckus then as now, for sure.
In terms of how the community responded to the Quakes, you can take us back to 1974 because, like you alluded to, San Jose was itching for its own product at that point. Community engagement from the team, what was that like?
Well, it was tremendous, and you have to compliment that. The original Quakes, the early years, they were tremendous with the community. They'd go out and they'd have clinics for kids and adults, and George Best was really good with kids. But all the old guys, they were tremendous with families and the fans in general. And
I know you've told us about the fact that after games at Spartan, players would be out there with fans having beers.
Yeah, that happened. I've seen it. The old tailgating area at Spartan Stadium and the field just north of the actual stadium itself was very popular, and barbecues, beers, there was a lot of good things happening.
George Best, obviously one of the biggest names in the history of soccer, English soccer in particular. This is a guy who my entire life I've heard referred to as the fifth Beatle. Yeah. You got to see him up close and personal. We all know that Even Me Blood was Twisted Goal. What was it like watching him and seeing the impact he had in the community? You talked about how good he was with the kids in particular at the soccer clinics.
Yeah, George, I saw him first with the old LA Aztecs and was aware, certainly, of who he was. And the fifth Beatle, that's how popular he was in the Manchester United days in England. I mean, good-looking young guy, and, he was right with Pelé as being the most famous soccer player in the world, and people just were attracted to him. He was immensely popular, and you could see the great skill with the Aztecs. And then he came to the Quakes, and I actually got to know George a little bit, and just a fun guy. And for people that don't know the story, George had an alcohol problem, which eventually claimed his life. So sad, because when George was sober, and as I said, the clinics, he was just a lot of fun. Had great rapport with kids. He was I don't know what it was like to be his teammate, but my sense was they enjoyed him, and he was just a fun guy. The Even Me Blood was